Okay, so I've come back and it's now totally dry, as you can see. The colours are looking really nice. And now basically what we've got is the bones of the picture. Nice toned down misty scene. And now what we need to start doing is building up the contrasting between the colours. Okay, so we're still using the HAKE, of course, because that's the only brush we're going to use, as we know. And what I'm going to do now is just begin this this foreground here. So first job I'll do is just put some water on. And we made our outline at the beginning, so that kind of triangle effect there is going to be our foreground. So we need to put out some more lemon yellow, plenty of it, to make up a nice thick green. So we're going to use all that blue up and all that yellow. More yellow than blue at this stage, and just drop that into that area. And what I've done, I've stopped about 3/4 of an inch short of where I put the water, and what I want is that to kind of mingle together in there. Incidentally, the paper has cockled a little bit and it's not gone back, but for this exercise I'm really not bothered. So that's a really wet green wash there now. And I'll just let that do its own thing, and every couple of seconds, every couple of minutes, I'll just keep adding a little bit more colour into there. Okay, and also at this point I'll just use the same green just to reiterate where the bank is, because the bank tends to just be a little bit darker. So that's where we decided it was going to be originally. That runs behind that tree, and this tree here is actually in the foreground really, because it's coming from out of the picture into the picture. So we can use that green. I've just dried my brush again. We can use that dark green that we've made in this tree that's overhanging. Like that. And now I've dried my brush, I can just use it just to dab up this where it's puddling. And if you look here now, because we've stopped a little bit short of that line, it's drying kind of fuzzy. So it looks like the green grass. Okay, so now this tree is standing behind the trees that are on the banking. So we can use again this darker green just to darken up the trees that are in front. Not forgetting, of course, to just come down into the water. If you dry your brush, your HAKE brush, rub it on your hand, making the 20 brushes again. We can just use the HAKE now just to flick that line up and down for the reflection. And then these trees here, of course, are closer. So again, we need to build these up again. So you see we're creating layers. Bit more water. So you see now I'm starting to make things even darker. We can reiterate anything we've done, we can always do again. So now you can see the line we're aiming to make for the river bank. Now I'll go a little bit higher with the grass. You see that meadow effect there now is becoming more pronounced. And the distant trees are looking more and more subtle. Now for doing these little kind of circular, you know, the tufted bushes, which are a little bit smaller than the hake itself, if you just squeeze your hake in so you've got a smaller edge there now, you see, and you can use it just to describe things that are a little bit smaller, try and make the reflection as well. Just to tell you, today in Wales here it's 35 degrees. It's really, really warm, so what you'll find when that happens is your paints tend to behave differently. So I'm getting things drying at rates that I'm not used to. And I've noticed my hake losing a lot more hairs than it usually does. Well, this is the beauty of watercolour, you see. So I'm now making quite a dark green, and I'm going to build up these trees again. A bit more yellow. Use up the rest of that blue, I think. See how dark that is. I'm going to start now just trying to make the dark area, you know, one tree makes next to another one. The shadow, if you like. And then this water getting darker and darker all the time. Just make the bank a little bit darker. And because I'm putting colour onto wet paper, you can see the picture is painting itself in a lot of ways. Then I'll use the rest of that dark stuff to build this grass up. Now here's another little technique. Now that edge has dried quite nicely, we can start using the hake as 20 brushes. Just dry it off slightly. Use the rest of this that we've got left, and we can just flick that around to create the grass. In this foreground, and to make even longer stemmed vegetation, you can use your HAKE the other way. Right, now before we leave again for this to dry, what I'm going to do is put some clean water in these gaps, just leaving a little tiny bit. And when you're doing water like this, always do it horizontally. And I'm going to use some of this Payne's Grey just to make that water darker. And some of that burnt umber, so it's like a browny grey. And we might make that a little bit darker again later. And I'm just kind of going into that green there and that green there horizontally like that. And then where I'm near the grass area here, I'll just dab some of that out. Alright, so it's time now just to let what we've done, just use a little bit more of that for the bank. So what we'll do now is let this dry, and while it's drying just keep moving it around, you know, left to right, up and down, and that grey and brown will create some lovely textures, and then we'll have another look at it and see what needs to be done. So I'll see you shortly.